were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Princess Diana's secret diary has been uncovered, revealing the dark truth behind Charles and Camilla's betrayal. She wrote of mind games, gaslighting, and the terrifying threats that made her fear for her life.
Missing piece of the jigsaw, Diana's fears that she'd be murdered. That fits in with what Alfie had said. It also fits in with
strange events, eerie warnings, and the feeling of being watched filled her final entries. She knew she was running out of time and that the walls were closing in. Tune in, because her last words will shake the world to its core. The words they tried to bury. Tucked away in a dusty old palace archive, buried under decades of royal paperwork, a discovery was made that no one saw coming. It was the year 2024 when a group of archivists busy sorting through endless royal records stumbled upon something that made their hands tremble. A worn-out leather journal with Princess Diana's unmistakable handwriting scrawled across the pages. This wasn't an official document, not something meant to be read by historians or journalists. This was personal, a raw, unfiltered window into the mind of the woman the world adored. And what was inside? Let's just say, once you know, you can't unsee it. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. But this one, it could change everything we thought we knew about the royal family. The diary entries came from the summer of 1995, a time when Diana seemed to be finding her strength, ready to break free from the weight of royal life. The world saw her as poised, radiant, and in control. But these pages told a very different story. The reality? She was trapped in a game she never agreed to play, a game with rules designed to break her. Each entry, whether scribbled frantically or penned with painful precision, spoke of growing fear, calculated moves, and an overwhelming sense that she was running out of time. When experts verified the diary as authentic, it sent a shockwave through royal circles. Those who once dismissed Diana's claims as paranoia were now eating their words. Palace insiders, many who had stayed silent for decades, admitted that what she wrote matched events only those deep within the royal walls could have known. Handwriting experts confirmed the strokes were hers, noting the pressure in certain spots where the emotions bled through. And then there were the security officers, 3 of them, who confirmed that some of the chilling details in her notes lined up with mysterious incidents they had once brushed off. The royal family's response? Silence at first, followed by behind-the-scenes scrambling. Former staff whispered about last-minute crisis meetings. A senior aide, after reading certain passages, was reportedly left pale and shaken, murmuring that what they had once dismissed as Diana's overactive imagination now looked terrifyingly real. But this was just the tip of the iceberg, the dark side of the palace. The diary laid it all out, layer by layer, page by page. Diana wasn't just writing about heartbreak or loneliness. No, this was much bigger. This was about manipulation, control, a carefully orchestrated system designed to keep her in check. And the 2 people at the heart of it? Charles and Camilla. Diana's words painted a picture of relentless gaslighting, of mind games so expertly played that even she questioned her own reality. Every time she tried to push back, to stand her ground, she was met with carefully planted rumors, whispers of being unstable, a label that would make it easier to dismiss anything she said. And then there were the threats. Not outright, not in the way you'd expect. No, these were subtle, designed to be felt rather than heard. A misplaced item in her room, a phone call with nothing but silence on the other end. Was it paranoia? Or was it something far worse? She wrote of the constant surveillance, of feeling watched even in her most private moments. One entry detailed how she found a microphone hidden in a vase in her own living quarters. Another spoke of strange occurrences, brake failures, mysterious illnesses, that she could never quite explain. The more she fought back, the more the walls seemed to close in. She wrote of secret meetings, whispered plans to take her children away, in a deep, gnawing fear that she wouldn't make it out alive. And worst of all, she predicted it, not in vague, cryptic riddles, but in plain, heartbreaking words. She knew. She always knew. A mother's battle. Diana's greatest fear wasn't for herself. It was for her sons. Every move she made, every decision, was about keeping them safe. She knew that if she disappeared, They would be raised by the same system that had chewed her up and spit her out. So she planned. She documented everything. She left behind a trail of breadcrumbs, hoping that one day, if the worst happened, the truth would be there for them to find. The diary revealed that Diana had explored escape routes, ways to start a new life beyond royal control. She considered leaving the country, going off the grid, but every attempt was met with obstacles, closed doors, and quiet warnings from those who knew too much. And then came the final entries, the ones that made experts shiver. In the last weeks before she died, her words took on a desperate urgency. She spoke of a plan in motion, a trap closing in. She begged whoever found her words to believe her, to understand that if something happened, it wasn't an accident. With the diary now public, everything has changed. The palace can no longer control the narrative. Every page has sent shockwaves through the monarchy, forcing people to rethink everything they thought they knew about Diana's life and death. The real question now? What happens next? Because once the truth is out, there's no putting it back in the vault. Behind the smiles, she was trapped in a battle no one saw coming. The shocking revelation. In the shadowy depths of a forgotten palace vault, a discovery would shake the very foundations of the British monarchy. The year was 2024 when archivists cataloging decades of royal correspondence stumbled upon a leather-bound journal bearing Princess Diana's distinctive handwriting. Unlike her public letters or official documents, this wasn't meant for historical record. It was her private sanctuary, a place where the people's princess poured out her darkest fears, deepest secrets, and most terrifying predictions about her own fate. What lay within those pages would forever change our understanding of royal history. The timing of these writings, carefully dated to the summer of 1995, adds a chilling dimension to their significance. It was a period when Diana appeared to be finally breaking free from royal constraints, mere months before her groundbreaking BBC interview. But while the world watched her composed exterior, these pages reveal a woman fighting for survival. Her entries, sometimes written in hurried strokes, other times in careful deliberation, paint a picture of mounting dread and desperate determination to protect her sons from forces she believed were closing in. Authentication of the diary's contents sent shockwaves through royal circles. Former palace staff, speaking under condition of anonymity, confirmed specific incidents detailed within its pages. Handwriting experts verified Diana's distinctive script, noting particular pressure points in her writing that suggested intense emotional states. Most compelling were references to conversations and events that only someone deep within the palace's inner sanctum could have known, details that align perfectly with recently declassified royal household documents. Initial reactions from royal insiders ranged from stunned silence to desperate damage control. 3 former protection officers have come forward, verifying Diana's accounts of unusual surveillance and mysterious incidents inside palace walls. A senior former aide, visibly shaken after reviewing certain passages, admitted that the princess's paranoia, as we called it then, appears chillingly justified now. Even more telling were the hasty private meetings called by current palace officials upon learning of the diary's emergence. But these initial revelations barely scratch the surface of what Diana documented. Within these pages lie detailed accounts of systematic manipulation, psychological warfare, and a web of palace intrigue that extends far beyond anything previously reported. The diary reveals her strategic genius in protecting William and Harry, her elaborate escape plans, and most disturbingly, her documentation of specific threats she believed would lead to her demise. As we delve deeper into these entries, prepare to question everything you thought you knew about Diana's story. But to truly understand the weight of Diana's revelations, we must step through the gilded palace doors and into what she called her beautiful prison, a world where every smile was choreographed, every tear forbidden, and where a young bride's dreams of fairy tale royalty transformed into a desperate fight for survival. Royal life, the beautiful prison. Through the gates of Kensington Palace, a young Diana Spencer stepped into what seemed like a fairy tale come true. Her diary entry from those first days sparkles with innocent enthusiasm. Everything gleams here. The silverware, the smiles, even the air feels royal. But beneath her hopeful words, there's a telling tremor of uncertainty. Within weeks, those same pages would fill with a darker reality. The shine isn't warmth, she wrote. It's the cold glitter of a beautiful cage. These early observations reveal a woman quickly learning that fairy tales, especially royal ones, often hide thornier truths. Protocol became Diana's daily tormentor, a suffocating set of rules that governed every breath. There are 17 different ways to position a teacup, she noted with bitter humor, but not one rule about how to heal a broken heart. Her diary meticulously documents the crushing weight of tradition, precise angles for curtsies, calculated distances to maintain from senior royals, even regulations about when she was permitted to smile. The palace machine transformed simple human gestures into political statements, each movement a potential scandal. Daily life behind palace walls followed a ruthlessly structured rhythm that Diana likened to living inside a museum where you're both exhibit and prisoner. Her private writings reveal shocking details: mandatory weigh-ins, scheduled bathroom breaks during public appearances, and endless rehearsals for basic interactions. They time how long I spent hugging children at hospitals, she wrote, warning that too much genuine emotion disrupts the royal brand. Every spontaneous moment was treated as a potential crisis, every natural impulse something to be suppressed. The invisible handlers formed an army of shadows, faceless figures Diana called the Watchers. Her diary named specific individuals tasked with monitoring her every move, from ladies-in-waiting who reported her private conversations to footmen trained to track her movements through the palace. They pretend to serve while they survey, she observed. Most chilling are her descriptions of midnight meetings, where these handlers would discuss her progress in becoming a proper royal, grading her performance like a student failing an impossible test. Mental health struggles emerged as the perfect prison began to suffocate its inhabitant. Sleep offers no escape anymore, Diana confided to her diary, describing nights spent pacing gilded corridors while battling bulimia and depression. The palace's response to her deteriorating mental state was particularly cruel. "They see my tears as weapons," she wrote, "my pain as manipulation." Her detailed accounts of being denied professional help, instead being told to smile more convincingly, reveal an institution dangerously out of touch with human suffering. The isolation system operated with chilling efficiency. Diana documented how her phone calls were monitored, her friends were strategically removed, and even her family visits were carefully orchestrated. "They create deserts and call them security," she wrote. The diary reveals how her schedule was deliberately arranged to keep her separate from potential allies within the palace. Even her staff was regularly rotated to prevent meaningful connections from forming. "Loneliness," she noted, "is their most effective tool of control." Surveillance became increasingly oppressive as Diana's popularity grew. Her entries detail hidden cameras installed in private areas, staff members paid to report her movements, and coincidental encounters with people who later appeared in tabloids. "My bathroom is the only place without eyes," she wrote, "and some days I'm not even sure about that." She meticulously tracked patterns of information leaks, leading her to discover an elaborate network of informants within her own household. The breaking points accumulated like hairline fractures in fine china. Diana's diary entries become increasingly urgent, describing moments when the facade cracked, screaming into pillows in soundproofed rooms, throwing priceless antiques at closed doors, and finally the day she threatened to go public with everything. "They didn't understand," she wrote in shaking script, "that breaking their precious rules was the only way to keep from breaking myself." These moments of rebellion marked the beginning of her transformation from captive princess to powerful adversary. As Diana's battle for survival within the palace walls intensified, her relationship with Prince Charles descended into a glacial war of whispers and public humiliation, a royal marriage crumbling under the weight of three people. The marriage deception. The warning signs flickered through their courtship like distant lightning before a storm. Diana's diary entries from those early days reveal moments that haunted her. Charles answering "whatever in love means" when asked about their engagement, mysterious phone calls that ended when she entered the room, and a peculiar bracelet bearing interwoven C's that wasn't meant for her. "I was a child," she wrote, "playing at understanding love while everyone around me performed in a tragedy they'd already rehearsed." These red flags waving frantically in the wind of her memory would soon paint her world crimson. Camilla's shadow loomed over every aspect of Diana's marriage like a persistent ghost refusing to be exorcised. "She's the thread that unravels everything," Diana confided to her diary, present in every room, every conversation, every holiday, even when she's physically absent. The entries detail devastating discoveries, intimate phone calls, secret meetings disguised as hunting parties, and jewelry gifts that mirrored those Charles once gave to Camilla. Most crushing was finding photos of Camilla tucked into Charles's personal diary, while their own wedding album gathered dust. The public performance of royal unity became Diana's greatest acting role, though the private pain bled through her carefully constructed mask. "Today I smiled for 7 hours straight," she wrote after a particularly grueling royal tour. "My cheeks ache, but not as much as my heart." Her diary meticulously chronicles the choreographed appearances. Charles's hand placed just so on her back for photographers, rehearsed loving glances across charity events, carefully timed public displays of affection that felt like daggers in private. Charles's emotional distance stretched between them like an Arctic wasteland. Diana documented his crushing indifference. Separate bedrooms within months of marriage, conversations that never ventured beyond royal duties, and cutting remarks about her emotional instability whenever she sought connection. "He looks through me," she wrote, "as if I'm a ghost in my own home." Perhaps most revealing were the Christmas gifts he sent via his valet, unopened year after year, each one a perfectly wrapped reminder of their hollow union. The breaking point arrived not with a bang, but with a suffocating silence. "I can't breathe in this marriage anymore," Diana wrote in shaking handwriting. "Today, Charles canceled our lunch to attend Camilla's daughter's school play." This seemingly small slight became the final crack in an already shattered facade. Her diary entry that night spans pages, ink blotched with tears. "I finally understand. I was never meant to be his wife, only his cover story." The next day, she began plotting her independence. The toll on Diana's mental state manifested in ways both visible and invisible. Her diary tracks the progression: sleepless nights spent pacing palace corridors, the return of her bulimia with vengeful force, panic attacks during public appearances that she disguised as graceful pauses. "The irony," she wrote bitterly, "is that they call me unstable for reacting normally to an abnormal situation." Yet within these darkest entries emerge the first sparks of rebellion, a determination to rewrite her story, not as a victim of royal deception, but as a survivor ready to fight back. Yet through the darkness of her marriage's collapse, Diana found unexpected light in her role as a mother, transforming royal parenting from rigid tradition to revolutionary love. Motherhood as rebellion. In the privacy of her diary, Diana outlined a maternal revolution that would shake the foundations of royal childrearing. "They expect me to hand my babies to nannies and protocol," she wrote, "but I'll give them something the monarchy has never seen: a mother's real love." Her entries detail late-night feeding sessions she refused to delegate, tears she wiped personally, and bedtime stories read in funny voices that scandalized traditional royal nurses. This wasn't mere maternal instinct. Her diary reveals it as calculated rebellion, each cuddle a crack in the monarchy's rigid facade. Diana's systematic dismantling of royal parenting traditions sent shockwaves through palace corridors. "Today I took the boys to McDonald's," she wrote triumphantly, the horror on their faces when William returned with a paper crown. Her diary catalogs each broken protocol: public schools instead of private tutors, trips to theme parks, waiting in line at movies. Most shocking to the establishment was her insistence on physical affection. "They say princes shouldn't be hugged," she noted. "I say they shouldn't be denied their mother's arms." Preparing William for kingship became Diana's most delicate balancing act. "He must understand power without becoming its prisoner," she confided to her pages. Her strategic approach combined royal education with grounding experiences, volunteering at homeless shelters between protocol lessons, visiting AIDS patients after etiquette training. "I'm teaching him that a crown is worthless without compassion," she wrote. The diary reveals her private coaching sessions, teaching William to blend royal dignity with human empathy, her ultimate gift to the future of monarchy. Harry's path required different warriors' tools. "They call him the spare," Diana wrote with visible anger blotting the page. "But I'm raising him to be extraordinary in his own right." Her entries detail fierce battles to protect Harry's individuality, defending his artistic interests, championing his casual nature, fighting against comparisons to William. The palace sees him as a backup plan, she observed. I see him as a force of nature they're not prepared for. Her strategy focused on building his confidence outside William's shadow. Educational choices became battlegrounds, with Diana's diary documenting each skirmish. Charles insists on Eton's tradition, she wrote, while I argue for schools that teach empathy alongside Latin. Her detailed plans show careful research into each institution, weighing academic rigor against emotional support. Most revealing are her notes about secret visits to prospective schools, observing how other children were treated when they thought no one was watching. My boys need classrooms that cultivate hearts, not just minds, she insisted. Creating pockets of normalcy became Diana's daily mission. Her diary brims with orchestrated accidents, spontaneous ice cream trips carefully planned weeks ahead, impromptu visits to arcades with security quietly arranged, movie theater outings meticulously choreographed to appear casual. Let them believe these moments just happen, she wrote. The truth is, I fight for every second of their childhood. Each normal experience required elaborate planning, but Diana's entries show she considered it worth every effort. Protection strategies fill pages with intricate detail, revealing Diana's sophisticated understanding of palace politics. I'm building a fortress of love, she wrote, but with walls made of public opinion. Her diary outlines multi-layered security, trusted staff members positioned strategically, media relationships cultivated to ensure positive coverage, and careful documentation of every threat to her son's well-being. Most impressive was her creation of a public narrative that made her boys too beloved to be fully controlled by the palace machine. Diana's long-term vision for her sons illuminates her diary's final passages. I'm planting seeds of change in fertile soil, she wrote months before her death. William will revolutionize the monarchy not through rebellion, but through the compassion I've nurtured. Harry will show the world that being spare means being free to create extraordinary change. Her detailed plans extend years into a future she wouldn't see, mapping out how each prince could transform their royal duty into humanitarian power. These entries reveal not just a mother's love, but a strategic mastermind at work. The escape plan. The first whispers of escape appeared in Diana's diary like tentative prayers. Today I allowed myself to imagine walking away, she wrote in trembling script during a particularly dark winter night in 1994. The thought terrifies and thrills me in equal measure. She documented sleepless nights spent plotting routes to freedom, mapping out allies and enemies, calculating risks with the precision of a military strategist. The pages reveal a woman transforming fear into determination, each entry building towards what she called the ultimate act of self-preservation. America beckoned like a distant lighthouse through stormy seas. There's a freedom in New York's chaos, Diana confided, describing secret trips to Manhattan where she explored potential neighborhoods and schools. Her diary details meetings with American media moguls, real estate viewings conducted under aliases, and preliminary discussions about charitable foundations she could establish. In America, she wrote, titles matter less than impact. My boys could grow up as leaders, not just heirs. These dreams of transformation across the Atlantic filled pages with increasingly detailed plans. Security concerns consumed entire notebooks, revealing Diana's growing expertise in protective strategies. She documented suspicious cars, photographed unknown surveillance teams, and mapped safe houses across London. They think I'm paranoid, she noted grimly, but I've learned to count the shadows that shouldn't be there. Most disturbing are her detailed records of phone tapping incidents, mysterious accidents that felt staged, and staff members suddenly replaced without explanation. Her vigilance bordered on obsession, but her diary suggests it wasn't without cause. Financial preparation proved Diana's strategic brilliance. Her private accounts detail hidden accounts established in Switzerland, investments made through trusted proxies, and valuable jewelry strategically converted to more portable assets. Freedom requires funding, she wrote with remarkable foresight. They control the purse strings, so I'm weaving my own golden net. The diary reveals sophisticated understanding of royal financial structures and, more importantly, their vulnerabilities. She was building her escape route brick by golden brick dot. The media strategy mapped out in her diary demonstrates masterful understanding of public perception. Headlines are weapons, Diana observed, and I'm learning to aim. She crafted a careful timeline of strategic interviews, planned photo opportunities, and cultivated relationships with key journalists. Most fascinating are her notes on information packets, carefully prepared evidence of palace misconduct, held in reserve like ammunition. "The truth isn't just my shield," she wrote, "it's my sword." Her children's well-being dominated every escape consideration. "Breaking free means nothing if it breaks them," she agonized in late-night entries. Diana's diary reveals elaborate plans for maintaining their royal duties while gradually increasing their time in America, ensuring psychological support through the transition, and creating safe spaces for them to process changes. Most touching are her detailed scripts for explaining everything to William and Harry, each word carefully chosen to help them understand without burden. Contingency plans fill the diary's final sections, showing Diana's growing sense of urgency. Each scenario was meticulously mapped: sudden illness, staged scandals, attempts to declare her unfit. "If anything happens," she wrote with chilling prescience, "this diary becomes my voice." She established a network of trusted allies, each holding pieces of evidence or instructions to be activated under specific circumstances. These weren't just escape plans. They were insurance policies written in ink and sealed with a mother's determination. In her final months, Diana's premonitions grew darker, more urgent, her diary entries transforming from strategic plans to haunting prophecies of her fate. Final premonitions. The diary's final months reveal an increasingly haunted Diana, her elegant script growing frantic as she documented a web of suspicious incidents. "They're no longer hiding their surveillance," she wrote in trembling letters. "The white Fiat appears too precisely, the near misses feel rehearsed, and even my regular drivers keep getting mysteriously replaced." What skeptics dismissed as paranoia emerges as a methodical catalog of orchestrated threats, each entry dated, witnessed, and verified by trusted allies. "I'm not crazy," she insisted. "I'm leaving a trail for those who'll need to understand what happened." Documented concerns pile up like gathering storm clouds. Diana meticulously recorded mysterious brake failures, wiretap conversations, and shadowy figures tracking her children's routines. Most chilling are her accounts of palace whispers, veiled threats delivered during charity galas, warnings slipped into polite conversation at garden parties. "M suggested today that fatal accidents can be arranged in Paris tunnels," she wrote, using initials matching high-ranking officials. Her entries read less like paranoid delusions and more like a prosecutor's evidence file. Her protective measures reveal a strategic mind operating in survival mode. Multiple safe deposit boxes across Europe held damaging documents. Trusted journalists safeguarded sealed envelopes to be opened under specific circumstances, and loyal staff members maintained detailed records of suspicious activities. "If anything happens to me," she wrote with chilling foresight, "everything triggers automatically." She even arranged regular medical checkups and stored blood samples with private physicians, anticipating attempts to manipulate her health records. Letters of intent punctuate the diary's final pages, each one beginning with the same haunting phrase: "I write this in sound mind and body." These weren't mere precautions. They were roadmaps for future investigations, complete with names, dates, and damning evidence carefully hidden across multiple jurisdictions. To her son, she wrote, "If you're reading this, they'll claim your mother was unstable. The truth is, I was too dangerous to their secrets to be allowed to live." The final warnings, penned days before her death, vibrate with prophetic dread. "The plan is in motion," she wrote, her usually pristine handwriting showing signs of distress. "They've found their perfect moment." Her last entry, dated August 30th, 1997, reveals a woman who saw her fate approaching but refused to go quietly. "Remember, my darling boys, whatever they say about your mother's accident, I saw it coming, and I've left you everything you'll need to prove it wasn't an accident at all." Princess Diana's diary reveals a truth far more powerful than any conspiracy theory. The story of a mother's love, a fighter's spirit, and a legacy that continues to reshape history. We've shared just a fraction of her incredible revelations, but the impact of her words echoes through time. What shocked you most about Diana's hidden diary? Which revelation changed your perspective of the royal family? Drop your thoughts below. Like this video and hit subscribe for more exclusive royal insights that go beyond the headlines. Together, let's keep Diana's truth alive.